Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, testing. 1, 2. All right, we're ready to roll.
All right, so people have centralization in their lives. This has been an issue that people have been coming to realize more and more around the world. There is this centralization in the banking system and the control of money. There's a centralization in the technology industry and the control of information. There's centralization in every aspect of our lives, and this makes it more the reason why people should learn at least 3 basic facts about Bitcoin and open blockchain technology. Let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together we are Minting Coins, your trusted source for crypto news, interviews, ICO reviews. We are here bringing you Bitcoin and open blockchain information. There is a lot happening in the world. I am sure you're paying attention. I'm sure you are inundating yourself with as much information as you can get. And let me tell you, it's increasingly difficult to find good information. With that realization, it's the reason why we started this channel. It's the reason why we started making videos and really, putting a lot of effort and resources into getting the news ourselves, consuming it, and then curating it to our audience through Facebook, through Twitter, through this YouTube channel, through Steemit, through several different social media sources online, digitally across the world, and then having our physical local meetups at a regularly scheduled basis over here in Western New York, south of Lake Ontario, in Rochester, New York. So while we're doing that, we are, bringing information together and sharing that along. There's a lot of other people out there who are doing this as well. One of the people who is doing this is Omar Bam with Crypto's News. I'm sure you know who he is. If you're watching my channel, there's a high likelihood that you are already subscribed to his, because he has been around before, 99.9% of everybody else delivering Bitcoin and blockchain news and really having a focus around Ethereum and other forms of blockchain technology and Bitcoin Cash and that sort of really cool and interesting stuff. Now, Omar is one of the direct inspirations for me having this channel to inspire me when he made a call out there for more people to create content, for more people to be creators in either development or media or education or information, because we're dealing in a world with major centralization, which really creates a lot of misinformation, disinformation to really confuse people with the fear, the uncertainty, the doubt. I'm sure we're all sick and tired about hearing about the FUD, and because everything out there is FUD. Everything is driving people away from Bitcoin, driving people away from Ethereum. And why are they doing that? That's because the centralized forces, the kingmakers, they want to say what is the ultimate blockchain. They want to say what is the token. They want to be the leaders of their platform. They don't want to be, followers behind Bitcoin, the first decentralized blockchain technology, or even Ethereum, because they want to have a higher stake in that chain, because everyone wants to be king, especially the people who are already the kings. So with that being said, it's more of a reason than ever. It's a huge example. It's a case study of why we need decentralized platforms, decentralized systems that really think about the totality of the game theory. And that's to say, thinking about all the different people involved, thinking about the people, thinking about the groups of people, the organizations, even corporations, where not any one is left out, really, that everyone has an interest in that blockchain succeeding, not going with someone's distributed ledger technology, centralized, blockchain, which is an oxymoron. If anyone says centralized, blockchain, that's the same thing as saying a private blockchain. And so with these private blockchains that are going to be created by the banks and the corporations for whatever their interests are, that may make a lot of sense for them. That may make a lot of sense for how they operate with the different parties that they do or don't trust in their industry. But in terms of a global currency, in terms of a global platform of trust, people really need to understand the difference between private blockchains, distributed ledger technology, and what we have in things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are open source and open and immutable and borderless, and allow anyone with Ether or with Bitcoin to operate and transact on that network. So with that being said, we're going to go over some high-level notes in the news, what's going on that's really related to this information, and then go over a couple facts about Bitcoin that everybody should know, that everyone should understand, because I promise you, as we move forward, people will more and more come to realize the advantages and disadvantages, the pros and cons, the whole SWOT analysis of the strengths and the weaknesses and the opportunities and the threats of not just Bitcoin and open blockchain technology, but also understanding the SWOT analysis of the US dollar. And so when they compare the US dollar with, decentralized currency like Bitcoin or platforms like Ethereum, it's going to become more and more obvious to them. And you watching this video puts you ahead of the game. You being a part of this conversation, that gives you a position of power, of wisdom to share information with other people, to verify your own information, is going to put you and your community that much further ahead. So with that being said, let's jump into the news and let's discuss. So real quick, starting at the Cryptos News Omar Bam Twitter feed, Omar goes to talk to people about what happened, trying to figure out what was going on with the Facebook. Apparently, every single person who had a Facebook account, who was an admin for the Omar's Facebook group, every single person that was an admin of that group all lost their accounts. They all lost their accounts. They cannot access their accounts. They cannot access their information. When they lost their information, they tried to access their account. They didn't know what was going on. And then they realized they also lost access to their Facebook group. This was a really big Facebook group. Omar has, 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. There's probably about 100,000 people, maybe 80,000, 60, 70, 80,000, 100,000 people in his Facebook group. And that is just gone now. That is just wiped away. They didn't really give a reason why. They just said that they can't give them information. It was just, unfortunately, due to the safety and security reasons, they can't provide additional information. And so, I really like this tweet. It's like the modern day book burning. And where, back in the day, right, like decades ago, they would delete information by burning paper, and now they delete information by removing videos, by removing whole groups, by removing the history, by removing not just that information, but you have to think about this. They're also removing the community that was formed by this, group of people, tens of thousands of people, where there were, no spam, there was no referral, no scam stuff. It was just straight up information. Shilling was to a minimum. There was, real good sources of information, and now this is gone. And so you go to Facebook, you search Cryptos News, it's totally gone. All that information is gone. A community destroyed, and it's just mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing to, think how so much is about to happen in this space. So much is about to blow up. These over here are not crypto. These are, what is even this? Yeah, this is someone else's. So and the same thing is happening to us. Actually, I didn't want to talk about this, but I might as well, because this is probably a good time to bring it up. So if I go to YouTube here in incognito window and I type in minting coins, I get this other guy that comes up who isn't even minting coins and is actually trying to extort us for money to try to use our name. It's a really unfortunate situation. That's, as you can see here in YouTube, they have fewer subscribers. They started a year after us, and fewer views, and they're still coming up first because Our channel, even though we have greater metrics, we have greater engagement, we have just longer history of existing, we have a stronger brand presence online as minting coins, because our channel is censored. We are still coming underneath this let's call it imposter, who is just seeking to make money by extorting our brand name. And so it's really frustrating. It's not cool. That's happening to crypto's news over here, and Facebook when you look for other people that are crypto's news. But as far as his group goes, his group is gone. And this underscores the reason why we need to have decentralized technology. This underscores in a media case study why we need decentralized platforms for media. And there's already plenty of case studies why we need Bitcoin to prevent rogue countries that default on their debt, that create hyperinflation in their nations, that have poor monetary policy that leads to economic crashes and recessions because of inflation to their dollars because of the hyperinflation. That's the case for Bitcoin. So when we check out the news, we see some studies that have come out from ING, and what they're seeing is that cryptocurrency ownership in the United States and across Europe is expected to double. And they're expecting a lot of income, a lot of money, a lot of capital to pour into Bitcoin, to pour into Ethereum. And by default, it's going to then go into a lot of this other technology. It's going to go into technology like Litecoin. It's going to go into technology like Ethereum Classic. It's going to go into technology like Omizi Go, like Monero, for all the people who want to have privacy as a default on their transactions. And people are going to start to realize that they want to, they may want to, in my opinion, put their money into blockchain technology, open blockchain technology, because it's distributed, because everyone has equal control and visibility over the network, and they can each independently verify the network without needing to go through any single source, that they're going to use these open blockchains. Because if there was a private blockchain, for privacy, like if the United States government had, the privacy blockchain, the US privacy blockchain that allowed total privacy for everybody, and you weren't able to prove that there was no backdoor, who's going to use the, US privacy coin versus, let's say Monero? And so it's really, really interesting to see the writing on the wall, to recognize that the amount of money going to Bitcoin is going to be doubling, and that may be an understatement. It could be quadrupling or 10xing the amount of money going into Bitcoin, into blockchain technology. And you've got to remember, right now there's only 17 million Bitcoins. There's never going to be more than 21 million Bitcoins. Currently, each Bitcoin is worth about $6,700. Volume is about $4 billion. We see over here on livecoinwatch.com. Total market capitalization, $100,000 billion. This is $0.1 trillion. $0.1 trillion. Not 1 trillion, not 100 trillion, just a tenth of a trillion. That's how much money is in Bitcoin right now. So Bitcoin, BTC, is an example of an open blockchain technology. Ethereum is an example of an open blockchain technology. Bitcoin Cash and EOS, you could say, are examples of open blockchain technology, even though there's components of centralization across all platforms. Monero is an open source blockchain technology. I personally don't have a lot of faith in Tron. My understanding and thinking and intuition on Neo is that it's simply a crapshoot compared to the other smart contract platforms that are already there, and also compared to Bitcoin. IOTA, I also don't have a lot of faith in. Cardano, I think, is an incredible smart contract platform with Charles Hoskinson running that, and with IOHK doing the work that they're doing with the scientific research. Stellar, also an extremely interesting and open source project. Litecoin, open blockchain project. This is what's out there. And so when we see these articles in the news that says MasterCard wins a patent for anonymous blockchain transaction, are you going to trust the MasterCard privacy coin, or are you going to trust Monero? Then jumping back to the news, we see other reports that say the central bank digital currency, a Fed coin or a Federal Reserve coin or a Fed note, for example, could provide stability, but that crypto is just far too volatile. And so if we put on, our glasses that let us really read what this says, this is saying that central bank digital currency cannot provide stability because crypto is too volatile. Or you could read it that central bank digital currency could provide stability, but the central bank is, just too risky. And so what does that mean? Well, jumping down to this quote over here, to avoid the recurrent instability of the banking system, commercial banks would need to come up with a more reliable funding sources than deposits. They can't just use deposits as their funding source to put out all these loans. And why can't they just use these deposits in the bank accounts anymore? They say because as fractional reserve character of the current banking system can be a major source of instability. So they say the fractional reserve character of the current banking system can be a major source of instability, yet they say up here that crypto is too volatile. So which one is it? So if the fractional reserve aspects of the current banking system is a major source of instability, then such a disruptive change is not necessarily a bad development. So they're saying that something has to change, that we cannot rely on fractional reserve currencies anymore, and that leads us to think that gold and silver are going to be more relied upon to create and back the bank's version or the country's version of these future digital currencies. It's not going to be fully based on, the full faith and credit of just the nation anymore. And so this could finally pave the way for a more stable financial system. But again, this more stable financial system is going to have a lot of volatility because we talked about this before, but just really quickly, this data is a year old now. But if this is all the cryptocurrency in the world, and this cryptocurrency here represents 1 billion. So here's our Bitcoin block at $100 billion. And we see these major companies in the world, how they have so much more money. Alphabet has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 billion. Apple, 800, 900 billion, almost $1 trillion that Apple has. The 50 richest people in the world have 50 times the amount of, in wealth, the 50 times the amount of wealth that isn't just Bitcoin alone. And so if you can imagine, some of this capital from these largest companies needing to or wanting to put some of their, excess cash and hedge it into something like Bitcoin or Ethereum or these open blockchain platforms, or if California or if the federal government or if different currencies around the world started, hyperinflating and there was a capital exit into cryptocurrency and gold, again, just one of these pieces of gold equals the total amount of all the Bitcoin in the world. So if the value of gold started to move in, if even a 10% of this value, right, of this gold, of this estimated 7.7 trillion moved into Bitcoin, then Bitcoin would be as big as Apple. It would be 7 times bigger. And then we have the stock market. The stock market, which is very finicky right now due to a lot of the trade concerns from what's going on in the United States federal government with the policies by President Trump. And what's interesting is that this imbalance in the traditional stock markets in the United States here in blue, or in, which is just as much as what makes up the United Kingdom, Japan, China, and Euro area stock exchanges, right? And so the total amount of Bitcoin is equal to just any one of these blocks. So if even a percentage, right, 1% of this stock market goes into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, you could see a huge explosion, especially as capital investment can easily enter, institutional money can enter, money that's locked up for pension funds and retirement accounts and family trust funds, which is a significant source of money in the world that's seeking to get spread around. The global money supply is just incredible, especially when we look at the amount of debt in the world and the amount of, that's not even including real estate, and last but not least, the derivatives, all of this debt, all of this capital that just extends, beyond belief as far as the eye can see. There's a lot of money in the world that could enter Bitcoin. There's a lot of money in the world that could come out into the rest of the world from all these different sources into blockchain technology. And when that happens, what are they going to be putting their money into? What are they going to be, putting their money in? Just some virtual asset that doesn't exist? No, they're going to be putting it into this network, the open source technology, the token that allows you to actually own part of the infrastructure and run part of the infrastructure, not just have a representative unit of value, right? Having Ethereum or having EOS or having Bitcoin gives you greater power to do more, to run transactions, to send messages, to run bigger lightning nodes perhaps. And these companies are going to be investing not into just the token, but the infrastructure and the technology as well. So there are financial systems around the world, and there are government-based financial systems. Like in the United States, we have the Federal Reserve, then you have the European Union Bank in the Eurozone, you have the Bank of China, you have different major banks for each of the countries that are, the Bank of England and so forth and whatnot, that are controlling monetary policy. You have the SWIFT system, which really connects all these banking systems together from a centralized source that allows switches to turn off and on transactions that allow banks on or off into the SWIFT system. You have other private networks like Visa, and this is another financial system, a financial network that people are using. All of these are, essentially connected. Some of them are private, and because they're centralized, they have, hubs where the information needs to cross, and that's where a lot of development of technology and people goes into the cost of, these to connect, for these to work, for these to run. There's a lot of, people in the middle and infrastructure in the middle and, buildings in the middle to allow these systems to work. Now, when we think about that, Visa is out there running, but Visa doesn't have a 100% uptime. Visa or any sort of financial system, there's no financial system in the world that has 100% uptime. And it's really interesting when we think about that, because the exception now, since Bitcoin was created, is that Bitcoin is an example, the only example of a financial system that has 100% uptime. It has been up since January 3rd, 2009. It has never gone down. It has never faltered. Sometimes the transactions have been too much. Sometimes, the network has been spammed. The network has been attacked. A lot of things have happened to try to tip over or offset, Bitcoin as a financial system. But when it all comes down to is that when we look at Bitcoin and the way that it works, every single transaction, exactly as every single transaction is specified, it goes through the blockchain. Even if it has not enough of that mining fee, then maybe it's just going to take much longer for that transaction to get hashed by the miners. But you can generally rest assured, all things being equal, that every single transaction that is valid gets validated through the Bitcoin blockchain. Again, 0% downtime. And in the future, when people start experiencing more downtime experiences with Visa, with the banking system, with the ATMs, and all of a sudden money's not coming out of an ATM near you, and all of a sudden the human teller machine, instead of the automated teller machine, the human teller machine is also not giving you money out of the bank because they actually don't have money in the bank. But Bitcoin will work 100% of the time, and this will become more and more apparent. So that was point number one. Bitcoin is up, it is running, and it is processing, and no one is running it. And it brings us to point number two. Because no one is running it, there's no centralized source, no one that can give you permission, no one that needs to give you permission to access the blockchain. There's no border, there's no authority, there's no real restrictive requirements to access Bitcoin and blockchain technology, open blockchain technology. As long as you have access to a computer, through a mobile device, through an internet cafe, you'll be able to send a transaction and have that go through, and not having, not only not have to ask permission, but you also won't have to worry about a centralized authority rolling back any of those transactions. You are the single person in control. You're the one and only person with this provable, verifiable, unhackable key that has the authority to send transactions from your specific wallet. And knowing that gives you a lot of power, knowing that gives you a lot of sovereignty, knowing that and taking action around that provides or creates a lot of risk for you to lose your funds, a lot of risk for you to lose your assets. But part of that is understanding how the backup systems work, and having strong practices, and learning as much as you can, verifying as much as you can, and following through, because you want to take control for your own future now. And this brings us to point number 3, and that's that you want to verify all of the information that I'm telling you. You want to verify all the information that you're receiving from whatever sources you get your information from. Instead of just seeing in your bank account that money was received, or seeing in PayPal that money was received, you may in the future want to have your own node. In the future, you may want to verify every transaction for yourself. In the future, you're not going to need to pay the additional fees and costs of a third party validating your own transactions, but more important than that, you're going to want the trust and the security of knowing that any exchange of value, any exchange of trust between you, your family, your community, and the other entity at the other end of a smart contract, that you guys are protected by validating the transactions yourself, by creating and signing the transactions yourself, and not leaving that to corruption or other risks by going through a third party. Verify your own information, run your own node, verify your own transactions, and be a part of this process sooner than later moving forward. So that's it for today's rant. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for hearing me out. Thanks for being a part of this information. Please share what do you think about any of these points or these reports from ING or these reports about Federal Reserve and crypto volatility moving forward. I think that we're going to see more tokenization of currencies and assets all around our lives. We're going to see major companies that the masses are aware of adopting blockchain technology like Facebook and Amazon. It's only a matter of time before these different variants and versions hit the market, because these companies are going to want to start collecting their own cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatnot, from users, because as we saw from the one report, there's going to be twice as many users at least in the world who are going to be in possession of these really valuable cryptocurrencies, which may go up very likely in value, especially as we get closer to 2020 and the next Bitcoin halving. And with all that being said, just remember that life and personally and professionally, it's a marathon. It's about the long game. It's a matter of living through the ups and the downs, to not have so much tunnel vision that we are not taking the time to do the other necessary things in our lives. Besides the YouTube channel here, we are involved in the community. We are bringing people together. We are connecting with developers and business leaders and all sorts of experts in their particular fields around our area. We're bringing people together to really talk about how we can build up our community. And I really hope that you are building up your community as well. You're taking a look at the downsides, preventing risk in your life, but at the same time, expanding your mind, learning about this information, and sharing it with as many people as possible before all of us are subject to extreme censorship and the perils of the centralized kingmakers now. And I really hope that together we can come together around open blockchain technology before the tipping point and before the people decide to use and give up, or at least give up more of their freedom with the private blockchains, that we adopt the open blockchains together. So with that being said, thanks for sticking around. Hit that like button, that subscribe button, hit that bell icon notification. And until next time, I'm glad that together we are minting coins. All right, cool. I'm gonna get back to work.